Hold on one.
All right. To start, just so everyone's aware, we are having some audio video challenges and has been in the room all day working on them. There's appears to be some kind of vendor, other related problem. So the screen you see is the only screen that's working tonight, and you may see some disruptions during the meeting. So please bear with us and apologize for that. It's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, and this regular meeting of the Sandpoint City Council is now called to order in council chambers at 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I'm Mayor Jeremy Grimm presiding. Also present are City Council President Deb Rule and Councilors Joe Aspiro, Justin Dick, Kyle Schreiber, Pam Duquette, and Rick Howarth. Under the city's adopted code of ethics and civility, as the presiding officer, I'm to identify the law enforcement personnel serving as Sergeant at Arms for this evening's meeting. Tonight we have Police Chief Corey Kuhn. Thank you, Chief. If everyone please stand, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Start off Mayor General announcements. First of all, we are in budget season, so council members, staff is working diligently on a budget, and we'll be bringing that to you in the coming weeks for some initial meetings. Give some thought to particular projects or elements of city operations that you would like to discuss with me, and we can work on incorporating those. Next, I had the pleasure to go out to Travers Park today and check out the Russell facility and the new playground. Despite the temperatures, and I think Director Welker will fill us in a little bit, the splash pad has been turned on, and believe it or not, people were splashing in it. We've got some very hardy residents. But it's looking wonderful. I just encourage the council to get out there. They're doing their punch list on final items, and it's truly turned out very well. Hats off to staff who've made that work. Next, I had the pleasure of attending and participating in a groundbreaking for Timberline helicopters this afternoon. Council, I can't tell you how exciting and proud I am of this community to have a homegrown business started over a decade ago, grow into a business with over 100 employees in several countries and have their headquarters here. Timberline's making a $13 million investment in a 50,000 square foot new facility on the east side of the airport, and will be hiring 24 new employees. Many of those are advanced technical A&P mechanic employees, and this is exactly the kind of incremental economic development growth that I think benefits Sandpoint and helps diversify our economy. So that's just really an exciting, positive something to report. Next, thanks to staff, council lost in the 50s. If you were there, takes a ton of time from our police and fire and administrative staff to plan that event. It went off generally without a hitch, except for the 16-year-old I saw throwing up on Friday night in the hospital parking lot. Generally, though, I guess I'd describe it as controlled chaos, but our community loves it, and congrats for the success of that. Some legislative updates. I think you may be aware, I've been selected to serve on an interim committee on affordable housing and housing in the state, and we met last week down in Boise. It's co-chaired by Mr. Redman and Mr. Jim Wood. Excuse me, I always get his name wrong.
Jim Woodward.
Woodward, thank you. I'm clerk. I want to call him Woodruff, but it's Woodward, Kim Woodruff. Anyways, that committee is looking at all elements of LUPA, our land use code in the state, and regulatory hurdles that would either be barriers to more affordable housing or more housing in general. They will be meeting in Idaho Falls in June, and then up here in Sandpoint, I believe it's August 14th in this room, and finally in Boise in September. So looking forward to some action items and actions that communities can take to address affordable housing. And then finally, I sent you all a Supreme Court case that was released today, and our legal counsel will be providing some comments to us about how the implications of that case affect short-term rentals. And lastly, there is a interim committee that's local option tax. There's a movement afoot to expand the local option tax to make it eligible for all counties. And of course, the rub for both resort cities, well, primarily resort cities, we're the only ones allowed the local option tax right now, is if the counties had this ability, could you get this sort of escalating competitive race to who can get the first local option tax assessed, and then would voters be less willing to adopt a second one that benefits the community that has the impact from these influxes of tourists and others. So that's pretty much it on the legislative front. And then just final thanks. I know some of you are at the parking lot dedication and opening downtown. I've had just a lot of positive support. Thanks to staff and council. Thanks for your support for that project. I think it will serve and represent our community very well. With that, do council members have any general announcements or reports?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do.
Council President Rule.
Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee met on May 8th, and a couple of things that were discussed. Accepting some recommendations for the Boyer Highway 2 intersection, which I've kind of been bringing up on and off about having flags and potentially, if that intersection gets changed, moving some of the crosswalks. So that was approved. Then there was various ongoing private development projects, and the committee approved recommendations for the development that is semi-nameless on Church Street right now because they're currently changing their name. Discussion was moved, so that was not voted on. And also some recommendations for Great Northern Commerce subdivision. The next thing, finalizing recommendations for phase 3 of the downtown revitalization project. So those will go to staff and potentially way down the road to council at some point. There's some discussion on the 4th Avenue sidewalk project that Streets Department is working on. Also discussion on the North Division crosswalk location, and it was recommended for First Street. And then just talked about items for the agenda at the next meeting, and then we closed the meeting.
Thank you, Council President Rule. Any other council announcements or reports?
I would like to say something, Mr. Mayor.
Is it an announcement or a report?
It is an announcement.
Okay, let's hear it.
Mr.
Council
Mayor,
President.
you asked the council not long ago what we would like to see you direct staff to work on, and we voted for code changes in our commercial downtown area. And in the last election, I ran on the ideal of keeping Sandpoint real. So I again ask you to direct staff to begin the work of updating these building codes, as I believe you also promised our residents that it was important to you to do also once our comp plan was completed. And then I guess my way out there wondering is it possible to implement a moratorium on building in the downtown area until staff has a chance to work on this?
Thank you, Councilwoman Duquette, and I'll just respond briefly. As I've mentioned several times, the planning department does not have the staff. We have 2 planners, one planner and an assistant planner. We have made some staffing reorganizations to free up capital and budget to hire another planner. We had an interview for that position yesterday, and we have another one later this week. Once that new planner is added to the planning department, planning will have the bandwidth or capacity to do something other than respond to current applications and permits. What's deemed in the planning field is current planning. What you're referring to is long-range planning. And as soon as we get that staff trained, our planner, Bill Dean, will have the capacity to start working on our code changes. And yes, we are working and prioritizing those with the commercial zoning for the first priority of those code changes. That will probably take 6 months, just to let you know. It's a very drawn-out public process with feedback from residents. It goes to the Planning Commission, comes to us. So it is not a fast process. I'll let legal update you after the meeting on the limitations of enacting a moratorium. So any other council announcements or reports?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission, we met last Tuesday, May 13th. A couple of things to note here. The Spring Silver Box Project, our public art that we've got downtown, that art will be removed here most likely by the end of the month. We're doing a quick call for public art. So we've got a few artists, I believe, that already are interested, and hopefully we'll have those submissions for council by the end of June. The Big Bellied Monster Art Program, just a refresher, that are wrapping the big bellied trash cans that we have downtown with some arts. We received over 90 submissions, and we are putting together a selection panel to select those artists. That'll be in June as well. We're moving forward with the summer walking tour planning, the historic walking tour brochure. And I think one thing that's notable that we ended up meeting with two folks, Alexis Matroni and Dan Everhart from the State Historic Preservation Office. Unfortunately, Sandpoint was not selected. We had an opportunity to get some grant money with a little bit of a match to work on, to get a consultant to help us with historic downtown overlays and historic districts. Unfortunately, we did not receive that, and I think even more unfortunate was the State Historic Preservation Office. Looks like they may not have a budget going into 2026. The mayor was great in terms of helping and saying that we would write a letter. They're getting a lot of the state representatives together as well to see if there's anything we can do about keeping that office here in Idaho as well.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Dick. And I just add to that, yeah, what they heard was that the federal budget, which much of their funding comes from, has been zeroed out for their area of expertise with pretty significant impacts to their ability to function. And this is not unique to SHPO. It is kind of what we're hearing across the state. Any federal funds are very limited or being reviewed for their program intentionality, and it's a very uncertain time from DEQ or state revolving loan funds to rural development to HUD funding across the board. So yes, SHPO is another, I guess, victim of what we're going through right now. So anything else, Councilman Dick?
That's
Mr.
it,
Mayor,
thank you.
do you know if those art will be for sale? My kids want to know
If the art will be for sale?
that you're removing, like the cougar and.
I believe there is a sale component to it. I'll check
Okay,
in with Ally
cool,
though,
thank you.
and make sure. Thanks for asking.
Any other council announcements or reports? Hearing none, I'll now yield the floor to staff for some quick reports from the departments. Director Jason Welker, Planning and Community Development. Good evening, Jason.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Got a few updates for you. Mostly parks related. It's been a busy few weeks out at Traverse Park, as you've heard and seen. The reason the splash pad was turned on today was that our grant administrator from Boise came to town to check on progress as we near completion of the playground. That was a Land and Waterways Conservation Fund grant that paid for half of the playground. So Kathy, our grant administrator, flew up, and Maeve took her on a tour of the project, and we turned on the splash pad for the first time so she could see what it will look like once we have it on permanently. Fortunately, there's 75-degree weather forecast for this weekend, so we're actually planning to turn it on this Saturday and let it run all day so the kids can get out and experience it for the first time. If you haven't had a chance, go check it out, especially this weekend. It's going to be packed. At noon today, it was packed. I assume homeschool parents with their kids there. So just a reminder, that was a $600,000 grant. Maeve did a fantastic job leading that tour today. Our grant administrator was extremely pleased with the outcome there. The only remaining work is ongoing. In fact, our landscapers were there today. They're spreading dirt. They're going to do some hydroseed on the mounds at the north end of the playground, fill in some of those low areas that were disturbed during construction. That's pretty much it related to the playground. Other projects that are ongoing at Traverse Park this next month or two include the installation of 4 more park benches. We need to pour some concrete pads for those. You'll see in your consent packet tonight a change order with the Gino contract to do that additional work. We ended up getting more park benches from the Kalispell tribe than we had originally planned for. So this is some work that was beyond the scope of the original playground project. So 4 pads for okay, microphone's dead. The Parks Capital Improvement Fund budget. The reason that's in your packet at all is because we are working with Gino on that. Since they are on site, there are efficiency gains by having our on-site contractor do that work rather than going out to bid and finding a new contractor. So it's additional work beyond the scope of the original playground project, but we're working with Gino through the contract that we have for the playgrounds, just to give you some context for those change orders in your packet tonight. Let's see. A couple other things that aren't related to the playground, but are park related. The foul ball nets on fields 2 and 3, we have a contract with Thompson Fence, a local company, to install those in early June. The same company is going to rebuild our batting cages, which are essentially a series of fences along field 3. So we're hoping to have the batting cages and the foul ball fences all up in the next couple of weeks to improve safety and accommodate all the Little League kids who are practicing throughout the summer. Beyond that, our only remaining parks capital projects this year are self-performed projects at the park. We plan to do landscaping at the skate park. We want to put in a pathway east of the skate park, possibly a shade structure and an information kiosk. I think I've mentioned those before. We're still working with BCSA on what that's all going to look like, the Skate Park Association. At City Beach, the crews have been repairing docks while we wait for the water to reach full pool so that all the mortgage customers can return. Today was the lottery for available slips. Cammie was focused on that today. I haven't even had a chance to check in with her to see how it went. But as you know, every year there's a handful of slips that come available, and there's a long waiting list for customers who want boat slips at our public marinas. So today was the day that we did the lottery and notified the lucky winners. So I haven't had a chance to hear from Cammie how that went, but I'm assuming it went well. Finally, the parks crews did take down the lifeguard stands today. So that was a decision that the mayor directed us to do. I think with the challenges we've had in hiring and staffing our lifeguard program, that's the responsible thing to do. So there's not a perception of public safety where really it's going to be up to parents to monitor their kids at the beach this summer, as it has been for the last few years. So just to give you a heads up, if you hear or see anything about that, that was something that was completed this afternoon. A couple more things in the CPD department. Very busy season, as the mayor indicated, in the planning department. We've got ongoing PUDs and CUPs, and last night we had a 3.5-hour hearing at the planning and zoning, 4.5-hour meeting at the planning and zoning meeting over the Farm and Flats mixed-use multifamily development. That permit was eventually approved by the Planning Commission, so we do expect to see progress on that. Myself and Bill Dean continue work on ordinances. Councilwoman Duquette mentioned zoning ordinances. We are working on Title IX amendments right now to the parking requirements downtown. With that, there's an overhaul of the entire Title IX, Chapter 5 off-street parking facilities. We're actually noticing that tomorrow. That's going to go to the Planning Commission on June 17th. The next night, we'll present a final draft of the parking management plan to you guys. And depending on how the hearing at Planning and Zoning goes, about a month later, we'd bring an ordinance amendment regarding parking requirements to you for consideration. So I do encourage you to email me or call me if you want to, Pam. Thanks to Councilwoman Duquette, she came in last week to my cubicle at the Sports Center and we went over the parking management plan together. She had several questions and suggestions. So I'd encourage any of you to reach out if you want to provide input as we work on that final parking management plan. Finally, a reminder that a week from tonight, we have a special meeting. It's going to be held at the Sports Center in the community room. This is a special meeting on the 6 months recap of the operations of the Sports Center. We've been open for exactly 6 months at that point. The format of the presentation will be probably a 15 to 20-minute presentation by me, followed by, I imagine, a lot of public comment. There's going to be a lot of people there, a lot of active members of the Sports Center, sporting community members from other sports have all been invited. We've done a lot of outreach and engagement with the sporting community, and I think there's a lot of passionate people out there who want to share their thoughts on how that facility might be optimized for the Sandpoint community. So ultimately, I don't think there's going to be any action items at that meeting. It's just going to be for a presentation, you to hear from the public, you to ask the public questions, you to ask me questions, and then hopefully at a follow-up meeting, I can get some suggestions from you to provide guidance on the next 6 months at the Sports Center. Okay, that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
I do. Mr. Mayor, may I?
Councilwoman Duquette, go ahead.
Two things. First off, is that the same city council special meeting you're talking about next Wednesday? I thought that was it's not here. It's at.
We're planning to hold it at the Sports Center. Yeah.
Okay,
at the
I did not
community
know
room.
that.
Yep.
Thank you. And then, yeah, I was at the city beach today and a little distraught to see those lifeguard chairs come down. And I'm just wondering, why would we not expect another year to be a better opportunity to get lifeguards? Lifeguards are something the community wanted, and to just, I understand you were directed by the mayor, but just to go ahead and do that with no thought of future
Well, there-
lifeguards?
I can answer that, Councilwoman
Okay.
Duquette. There is thought of future lifeguards. It's just when somebody walks out into a beach and sees a lifeguard stand, somehow in the legal world, that could give them credibility to say, I thought there were lifeguards there. I saw a lifeguard stand. Of course, I let my 5-year-old who didn't know how to swim go swimming unattended. Why I did something else. So it's simply a preservation of liability and the prudent thing to do, considering we don't have lifeguards.
So then we would build more lifeguard stands. It did say on them that it was not managed by lifeguards. I'm just saying that's
Again,
another expense
You
then.
know, I'm not an attorney, Councilwoman Duquette. I'm just trying to limit our liability, so. What we do next year, we can only hope that there's a more robust interest in lifeguards and training lifeguards and a response from the community to sign up to be a lifeguard. Any other questions for Director Welker?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Schreiber.
Hey, Jason. I saw the flower pots went up downtown this week.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheryl?
And that falls under the Parks Department to water them. You have a,
No, we actually have a contract with a private contractor similar to what we do at the Snack Shack. It's
Okay.
you know, we've had the same person for a couple of years now. So those are maintained by a third party.
okay.
Yeah.
This, I believe this idea was originally floated by the council president, but adding some of our downtown trees to that list to be watered, especially in the hottest parts of the summer. The most crucial ones will be the 2 new trees that are going to be planted in the downtown parking lot. They're going to need supplemental water as their roots develop. So if there's any possible way we could add that to their contract, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. I'll touch base with Cheryl and our city forester.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Good.
Any other questions for Director Welker?
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jason. Next is Holly, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Holly Ellis, Public Works Director. I'll start with our Arbor Day event that's scheduled. So our downtown parking lot, we have 2 ribbon cutting last week, so we're super happy about that. Thank you to the community's patience about our Boyer and Oak closure or road work that we're working on. Hopefully the contractor will be out of there in about 2 weeks and we'll have that patched up and buttoned up. But our eyes are on it. We're pushing our contractor to be out of there as quickly as possible. That's all I have from Public Works.
Any questions for Holly?
Can I just ask what kind of trees?
Oh, I don't know.
You know?
I do. It's a western larch and a ginkgo biloba,
Male.
male ginkgo biloba. Because the females have a specific odor, yes.
Thank you, Kyle. It will be at the farmer's market. They'll have a stand there and then they'll actually do the tree planting at the parking lot for the event. So thanks for filling in the gap on the species.
Yep.
Thanks, Holly. Any other department reports at this time? Fire Chief, Gavin. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. How's everybody doing this evening?
Well,
Move this back because that's gonna freak me out, I think. So just want to give you guys a quick update on what we've been doing in fire. We had again, Lost in the 50s, went off pretty good. I mean, we thought it was a pretty good event. It just kind of, that's our signal. It kind of kicks off the summer events and we just kind of stand by, we're willing and ready to support those. Next Wednesday, we have the mock DUI at the high school, and it's for, hopefully to get the kids to understand that they don't need to be drinking and driving grad night kind of a thing. We do that every year, but we're looking forward to doing that one again. Had a meeting on that one today. This morning, we participated in an active violence drill at Bonner General Hospital. Probably saw it on the next alerts, things like that. But we thought the drill went off pretty well. It was us and police, EMS, Bonner County EMD, and the BGH staff. So just something to build on. We'll keep working on that stuff. The last thing I had was we have automatic aid mutual aid agreements with some of our neighboring departments. And as you probably know by now, their levy ask did not pass for all three. Their chief has issued a statement about some restructuring that they're going to be doing. I've been in contact with him today. We're going to meet tomorrow. We're going to start going over some of the response protocols. I briefly looked at them today. I didn't see anything that was glaring or that would be detrimental to operations here or there. It's just kind of a reshuffling of what they got to do. But we're going to go over that stuff tomorrow. If there's anything that comes out of that, that's going to be negative or I think is going to be counterproductive to what we're trying to do, I'll just keep you guys informed. But I just wanted to give you a brief update on that.
thanks, Chief. Before I go around to the council, I mean, what's your, in light of the failure of the multiple levies, thumbnail, what's going to happen to Northside and Sagal or West?
No idea. No
Okay.
idea yet. I go off of what the same letter that everybody else saw. I heard some stuff several months ago, but hadn't seen anything again. So again, the main thing that we're going to be talking about tomorrow is the response protocols, who's assigned to what types of incidents. That's first and foremost. I would like to get some sense of their restructuring just to kind of see how that's going to look. But right now it's just all rumor mill and conjecture, and we don't, we can't base anything we do off of that. We gotta see it to believe it. So that's just kind of where we're at. Hopefully we'll get some more out of the conversation tomorrow.
Thanks, Chief. And council, as soon as I get a report from the chief, I will update you on what's happening there and what impacts there may be to our level of service. Any other questions for the chief?
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Kuhn, anything? Cheryl? No, you're good. Any questions for any other staff? Council members, great. Next, we'll proceed with the general public comment portion of the meeting. If you wish to speak and having completed the sign-up form, please do so and hand it to staff member at the back of the room. The purpose of general comment time is to allow members of the public in attendance to speak to the mayor and council regarding items included on this evening's agenda under the consent calendar or old or new business that is not a hearing. For the purpose of a general public forum, you are also welcome to comment on any topic pertinent to the business of the city that is not included on the agenda. Those attending remotely who wish to speak may raise their hand on Zoom at this time. I would like to make everyone aware that the city does have a policy on public meeting decorum. The rules are posted outside the chamber's entry door. In summary, I would ask that everyone please be pleasant and respectful, not make derogatory statements about others, including city staff, and not be disorderly or disruptive. No calling out, clapping, holding up signs. Please note the council cannot take testimony on any planning-related matter outside of an official public hearing. Public comment time is for comments only, no questions or debate. You are welcome to contact me during regular business hours if you have any questions or concerns. Again, if you wish to speak on an item that is not a hearing or on another topic related to the business of the city of Sandpoint, this is your opportunity to do so. This is the only general public comment time that will be offered this evening. When it's your turn to speak, please state your name and whether you reside in city limits. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. And with that, Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak during the general public comment time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Barrett Olstad.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm within the city limits, and the reason for my visit here is I wanted to share an opportunity to hopefully get support on. I was selected to fly out to New York City next week to participate in the tower climb that benefits the Wounded Warrior Project. And I was on the wait list, and I just found out last week they shared the information with me. And I found out today that I'm actually the only one that's going out there from Idaho out of 1,000 participants. So I haven't had a lot of time to do any fundraising. So I just simply wanted to present it to the council, the public, that if anyone's interested in helping me support the Wounded Warrior Project, please let me know. And I would be eternally grateful, because not only do I want to, do right by them, but I want to represent Idaho and Sandpoint equally as well. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much and congratulations. And how do we get in touch with you if somebody wants to make a donation?
Maybe we can talk
Yeah,
after.
give your information to the clerk and we can connect you.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Good luck. Thanks.
Christine Moon.
Good evening, Miss Moon.
Good evening.
I like your beat.
Pardon me?
I like your beat.
Thank you. It's getting to be the season. Thank you for allowing me to make a comment. And I'd just like to say that my comments now and in the future will be with thoughts of Helen Newton, who was a good friend and who encouraged me to get involved in local.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but because that project is still in its appeal period, we can't have any further comment to any of our governing boards until that appeal period has expired.
Okay, so
So you can make general comments, but you can't speak to that project specifically or anything that happened last night.
okay, and that's what I was going to do.
Okay.
So the appeal, I mean, maybe just for clarification, what does it?
So right
Can
now,
those be altered during the appeal period? No.
no, the written decision will be drafted and presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval. After that approval has occurred, then the applicant will have a 15-day, applicant and or affected party, depending on how that goes, has a 15-day appeal period to appeal any portion of that decision to City Council. And then this council becomes the decision maker at that point. And so we can't have any comments to them. We want to keep them neutral and unbiased so that every one of them has an ability to hear that hearing de novo should there be any sort of an appeal or decision that comes to them.
So thank you for that. And if I would wish my thoughts on it to be known, do I wait
No.
after
Yes.
15 days?
Well, you have to wait until after all of the appeal periods have expired to express any of your concerns about the decision to any of the decision makers.
Okay,
Thank you.
Rebecca Holland?
Good evening, Ms. Holland.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Good. For the record, Rebecca Holland. I live in Sally Valley and I love to call Sandpoint my hometown.
You should move here.
I will. I'm retired. It's complicated. We've been out there since 75 and family and there's just a lot going on and I'm not quite ready for living in a condo or whatever. But I do care a lot about, oops, my time is
We'll
spent.
start over. Go ahead.
Would you? I have a lot of concern and care for the town because I call Sandpoint my hometown. We've been here for a long, long time. I have family that lives here, and I will someday, when I get a bit older, be here. So anyway, I'm here because I see that there's another change order for Travers and number 8. And I have a long history. It took a book like this, which to keep track of all of this going. And someday this is going to be a book. I've been taking photos and I got some interesting ones today. It just goes on and on and on. I'm surprised, one, that is just in a consent calendar tonight, that it's not being discussed. Every other change order was, and it came before council. I almost came at the last meeting when I saw that there was another 200,000 written in payables to Gino. They're up for another 36 now. It keeps on going. All of which go out to places like this new change orders for White Diamond Concrete out of Post Falls, Summit Electric out of Post Falls, the building company out of Spokane. When we have locals here, we have local companies. We got a lot of landscapers. It doesn't make sense that it costs more to bring in trucks from other places. They're dumping their landscaping to the hilt out there. There's been issues with that in the way all of that was delayed, planted, et cetera, and we'll just have to wait and see. But I hope that this should be something I think that really should be brought to everyone's notice as to how long this is going and how over budget it's going. There's a lot of mathematical gymnastics going on in today's thing. For those of you that studied it, I'm sure you have. But note that there's others that are watching this and seeing this. And this is like one of the worst orchestrated projects I have ever seen in my whole life. And I have seen plenty because my father was an architect. He prided himself on coming in under budget. This has been over budget and changing things out.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Your time is up. I do have one question. Just maybe you can help me.
Yes.
Did you reset that,
No,
Melissa?
she didn't. Sorry.
Oh, okay, then
another half a
I'm
minute.
sorry. I thought that was going for
I had
free.
a half a minute. Well,
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. I made my point.
Just for me to connect the dots,
Mhm.
can you understand or help me understand, do your taxes go to support any of the city of Sandpoint services, facilities, or offerings? I mean, I'm just trying to understand why as a non-resident
It matters to me.
standpoint, I'm just understanding, do your taxes,
Well, you know the
do
answer
you
to that.
pay anything into the city of Sandpoint?
You know the answer to that. I no longer have my business building in this town. I did for many years.
I just wanted to understand like the fiscal.
Well,
impact.
for the record,
Sure.
no, my taxes, I pay Bonner County Hospital, library taxes. I'm sorry that our fire district thing failed in Northside, which is where I live. I support the schools. I'm so glad to see Priest River, rise up. But there's no reason that I shouldn't be caring about our local parks. And I'll be happy to pay extra to come park. I would like to say on that, I think we should have equal time. If you want to come and everybody wants to play at the park, you get 4 hours in the city, so do we, okay? et cetera, et cetera. So just, that ought to be a,
Thank you, Ms. Holland. You
clear
answered my question,
seal.
and I appreciate that. And I would encourage all county residents to contact their representatives and encourage the county commissioners to form a parks or rec district so county residents can have services provided that aren't subsidized by the city's Sandpoint residents.
and I would love to have one out the Pack River. I've
You should
talked about
contact
that,
your
you know,
county
hello,
Commissioners, but we're not going to debate this. Thank
that's
you.
another thing. I would
You can
love to
reach
have
out
more.
me 5 days a week and set up a meeting if you want to talk further.
Mr. Mayor, that is all who've signed up to speak during. the
Thank
public
you,
comment.
Madam Clerk. That will conclude our general public comment portion of the meeting. Next is the consent calendar. For the record, the total amount of bills for approval is $391,659.41 for regular payables. Council, do you have any questions, or is there anything you wish to remove from the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilman Schreiber.
I'd like to remove number 12, the change order for Traverse Park.
Thank you. Number 12 will be moved to the end of new business. Anything else, council members? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dick, second by Roll. This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Boole,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Sproul,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to old business. The first item under old business is the appeal of the denial of the McGee Development Water Service application, which was postponed to this meeting. As discussions continue on a resolution to this issue, city staff and the applicant have requested council further postpone this matter to our next regular meeting, and I'll entertain a motion for this postponement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Rule, second by Aspiro. This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Sproul,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council. Apologize, I'm late. Holly Ellis, Public Works Director, here to give an update on our wastewater treatment plant and compliance. The agenda, I'll go over background of our wastewater treatment plant, the February upset that occurred, and our audit consequently by DEQ, and our next steps.
That looks strangely familiar to present day wastewater treatment plant, but I see a car from like the 1960s there.
There's parts that are still there. Just a background on our wastewater treatment plant, we do have a permit. We take wastewater discharges after it's disinfected into the Ponderi River in accordance with our National Discharge Pollution Permit. And we have challenges with I&I. I&I is inflow and infiltration, excess of water reaching our plant. So that graphic on the right shows how much groundwater and infiltration we see at our plant. We have capacity to treat 5 MGD, which meets our daily flows of 2 MGD. But during wet weather events, we see closer to 10. So that's one challenge we have in wanting to replace our plant. The other thing is conditions. So going back to this picture that the mayor pointed out, we have parts of our plant that are from the 1940s still in use today. So due to the condition of the plant and our capacity issues, we're looking at replacement.
Do you think the plant would qualify as a historic landmark?
Actually, I believe it would. Anything over 20 years old is
Yeah.
considered historic.
I'm sorry. get a little cheeky on that.
SHPO is going to be doing a permit review on our project, so they absolutely might have something to say on that. So as our plant discharges treated wastewater into the Pend Oreille River under our National Pollutant Discharge Permit, we are required to meet different federal regulations. This is under the Clean Water Act that's regulated by the federal government. They look at effluent limits, they monitor our reporting requirements, and then they also monitor our operations and maintenance. The effluent limits that they look at are biological, chemical, or biochemical oxygen demand, which is known as BOD, total suspended solids, known as TSS, ammonium, nitrogen, phosphorus. There's a whole list of other contaminants that they look at and we're required to measure, but those are kind of the highlights. So in February, we had what DEQ has called an upset. And I have a note here of what an upset is for the record. So an upset is a non-compliance related to an electrical issue that causes the plant to meet effluent limitation violations. So a violation is when the city or when the facility, sorry, is out of compliance with the terms of our permit. So in February, we had a SCADA error or a glitch that shut off our breezeway pumps. SCADA is an electrical system, so it is our electrical communication, and it transmits information from level sensors, for example, to pumps. It's how electronics communicate. So we had a glitch that day, so the breezeway pumps did not, they actually turned off. They were running and they shut off. What that meant was that we had partially treated effluent that was moving from our primary clarifiers into our secondary. It meant that those were no longer pumping, so we had an overflow. The overflow went into our parking lot. It was approximately 300 to 500 gallons, and then that discharged directly into the Pend Oreille River. So 300 to 500 gallons of partially treated effluent reached the river that morning. The event took about 40 minutes. The operators identified there was a problem, fixed the problem, and stopped any more pollutants from entering the river. After the event, we reached out to DEQ and followed their protocol for notice of these permit limits being exceeded. We followed up with reports. We followed up with our contractor to figure out what happened with our electrical and our SCADA system. We also followed up with our contractor to make sure that everything is operational and is working in order to date. On April 28th, DEQ sent a letter confirming that we are in compliance with our permit. So again, we did have a violation. We did get that notice. We were directed to corrective action and get back into compliance, and they have confirmed that we are in compliance. 300 to 500 gallons, just for scale, is about the size of a hot tub. So if anyone has a hot tub in their backyard, that's how much partially treated effluent was discharged. I guess before I move on, I'll continue. Moving on from the event, DEQ had not been to our plant in a while, so they offered to come up and do an audit. You'll recall that when we submitted our letter of interest to DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, they're our permitting regulator, we had a challenge with our letter of interest, SRF, State Revolving Fund loan application, because we had not had any violations to date. So we know we have a really old plant, but we do not have the violations from the permitting authority to support that. So when DEQ offered to tour our plant and audit it, we welcomed it. Many other wastewater districts would not welcome an audit, or they try to keep regulators away. We are very much open to it because we know our plant is old and we know it needs to be fixed. So they came out and conducted that audit on March 19th. And I have some pictures. This picture shows some aggregated concrete. The way to fix this is to replace this is our skimming tank. So we skim the top of the effluent to keep all of the kind of foam that percolates clean. And we could rehab this, but this is something that is much more cost effective to just replace. Another interesting picture here, this is our effluent coolering basin. You can see there's kind of some buildup on here and some areas that need to be cleaned out. I guess it didn't have as many pictures as I thought. But back to kind of the results of the audit. So in the audit, they had and areas of concern. So a violation is a non-compliance with our permit, and an area of concern is an item that is getting close to a violation. So it's not necessarily out of compliance, but it's getting close. So to kind of summarize the 5 violations and 6 areas of concern, we had various reporting errors, missing documents on our system. Sometimes the lab was not providing the information that DEQ wanted. Super easy to clarify. Devin and his team, they've been working really hard, I must say, on this the past month. Many hours are going into this. They've been diving through the reports to provide the missing information that DEQ was requesting, and they've been also working with our labs where we send our test results to make sure that they're providing DEQ the information that they need and are looking for. The other item is improper O&M, operations and maintenance. We had mold in our Headworks building. We've already contracted with a contractor to remove the mold. So that happened last week. We are working with another contractor to install an HVAC system so that in our Headworks building, we no longer have a mold issue in the future. We have underground pipes that are leaking. We have a lot of water service lines that are those old Galvy lines. Many of our residents in town have those as well. Every year we have water leaks that pop up at our wastewater treatment plant. So our utility crews are out there actively repairing those. They've identified 2 leaks and have located them, and they're just waiting for a little bit better, drier weather to go out and repair them. The breezeway pumps were noted to have been leaking oil. We confirmed that the breezeway pumps are not leaking oil. It was, we were in the middle of an oil change when DEQ came for the inspection. So they cleaned up their work area and properly stored the oil. And then finally, the chlorine basin was noted to be cleaned. And that's something that they clean on a regular basis, twice a day. They did not do it that morning because of the audit, so they came back later that afternoon to clean it. So those are kind of the minor, smaller items on our audit list that are still violations, but were relatively easy to address. And so on this next list, I'm highlighting some of our larger challenges that we have coming up. On the right here is a picture of our screw press. Not in this picture are those straps. This is really needs to be replaced. I should have picked a better picture, but you know those ratchet straps, those are on these belts to make sure that this equipment is operating. So DEQ identified that these belt presses are really on their last leg, they're degraded. We saw that this was an immediate and urgent need. This machine is in our solids handling. So this is what kind of dewaters the effluent and splits the solids out from the liquid. And we have 2 of these. These were identified as a bridge improvement, meaning that we do have funding for these. We did engage an engineer and we're actively looking to replace these belt presses with screw presses. So this is going to be coming to council later this summer to request purchase of new screw presses and to request engaging a contractor to replace this equipment. Likely this is a multi-million, probably $2 million bridge improvement. Again, we did budget for it. This was planned for. This goes back to our facility plan from 2018. This urgently needs to be replaced. The other challenge that we have is our effluent channel. It has a lot of debris that needs to be cleaned out. We need a contractor to help us install a gate. I have a picture of that here. In order for us to clean out this channel adequately, we need to install a gate so we can isolate it and get somebody in there to clean it. So we'll engage a contractor here shortly to install a gate here so that our crews can adequately maintain that chlorine basin. The skimming tank is degrading. That's this structure here. This is beyond any, you could rehab it, but it wouldn't be a cost-effective approach. This is ready for replacement. You can see the concrete is aggregated. Fortunately, the time it was built, they had really good concrete back then, which is why it's probably lasted 80 years. But now it's beyond. Finally, the other challenge that we're having is inflow and infiltration, and we did get a violation for that. We've made so much effort in trying to reduce inflow and infiltration. The way that we've tried to do that in the past is manhole lining and repair and replacement, main lining, repair and replacement. Over 25% of our collection system main lines have been replaced or repaired. The city has repaired over 100 private laterals, and through our SLIP program, which is our sewer lateral inspection program, over 300 sewer laterals have been replaced. So there's been a lot of effort in reducing the inflow and infiltration that comes through our collection system, but it hasn't been enough to offset those flows. We still see really high flows at our wastewater treatment plant. So ultimately, this is what we can do today, and everything else is going to come with a new plant. So with our next step, we submitted a letter of all of the items that we're addressing to DEQ and letting them know that we are actively working to replace our wastewater treatment plant. Keller & Associates is contracted, and they're working on a preliminary engineering report. This is in a DAPA requirement. This is really very preliminary early steps to design. That draft is complete. It's currently under review with a third-party consultant, Stantec Engineering. Stantec, if you recall, they worked on our wastewater collections facility plan in 2023. And so we asked them just to give a look at Keller's work, just to make sure that we've really got everything buttoned up and verified, because this is an important task and we want to get this planning effort right. Then it'll be coming to council for review. We'll submit that report to DEQ. That will kick off our design. So once we get that preliminary basis of design, is kind of how you can think of it, then the design starts. We'll also kick off permitting efforts. That will be the next immediate step. And then we're looking at funding. We had our first kickoff meeting with our bond counsel today, Holly Troxel, and we'll be engaging financial advisor, a PR firm to help with moving towards a bond election in November. Are there any questions?
Thanks so much, Holly. There's a lot here, and first and foremost, I know you and staff dropped everything to respond to this. I would just make one comment to put this into context for the council. You know, we had violations and we had errors. I mentioned I had the opportunity to tour the city of Haley's wastewater plant a few months ago, and their operator sits in a chair like this and looks at a computer screen and pushes a few buttons and collects the data. You know, just for context, our crew is out there, speaking to these errors, especially the record keeping on any financial administration This does include our ranking, so to speak, and puts a very clear in the record recognition of the state of our facility. On the downside, the funding is not looking pretty. The state revolving loan fund has limited money, although we're ranked third for projects in the state. They are only maybe available to give us a $30 million loan. Rural development funding is pretty much zeroed out, and their staff has been slashed in the state. I'm working with congressional and Senate representatives to try to get funding for our facility, either through earmarks or through changes of regulations that would make our facility less expensive to rebuild. So we are working on this and headed for a November bond election that would give us the authority to borrow whatever the source is, either SRF or private market, the funds needed to rebuild this plant. With that, any questions for Holly?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilman Howard.
Holly, first of all, pass on I guess the acknowledgement of the heroic work that team is doing to keep our plant running. It doesn't go unnoticed. Given the age of this plant, and even the challenges to get funding, does it make sense for us to have DEQ come in and do a regular audit, just as a more of a preventative maintenance kind of opportunity, so that sometimes fresh eyes help highlight things that maybe we don't see? And so just as I guess a point of maybe just consideration, that may be something we want to do until we can get a plant that runs the way Mayor Grimm said, somebody sitting at a computer screen touching buttons. So just for your consideration.
I appreciate that, and DQ has been tremendous to work with. I mean, very much a partner in this with us and supportive. So I'll pass that idea along. And Chantilly's our compliance officer. Again, wonderful to work with, and might be open to visiting Sandpoint more frequently.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Howarth. And I will just emphasize there is a very real and sincere recognition from the state of the challenging situation we're facing right now. Any other questions for Holly?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Schreiber?
Yeah, thanks for all that information. If you started off by saying that the violation was caused by a SCADA malfunction, is that right?
Yes.
Now, I know we recently spent well over $1 million on upgrading our SCADA system. Is that part of the new upgrade, or is that another part that is still in need of upgrade?
Kind of both. So we've been doing major SCADA upgrades across our water collections, and a little bit at the wastewater treatment plant. What they're trying to do at the wastewater treatment plant is not do, or what they try to do is not do too many upgrades, that we'd be replacing this in the next year when we started the project, but also recognizing that our crews need SCADA. So they did confirm this was not a result of the recent efforts that the contractor worked on. So the answer is yes, we have SCADA. Historically, we've had SCADA. It's not a very good system. We hired a contractor to come out, and that large contract, again, was hitting many different departments. Just a little bit of work at the wastewater treatment plant unrelated to this incident.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think you just touched on the other questions I have, which is which parts of the things that you listed are going to be able to be reused at the new plant? So you mentioned the headworks HVAC as well as new screw presses. Are those things that can be used in the new plant once it's finished?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our Headworks building, that's actually one of our better structures, and we confirmed that with our engineer that we have working to replace those screw presses. So the intent is that the equipment, those 2 screw presses, will be for the next 20 years. We'll have those operational, and the bones of that building are in good shape. So there's some roof repair work that needs to happen. The building was built in the 80s, so there's some pretty major electrical updates that need to happen in that building, but otherwise everything we're doing, the retrofits we'll do today and the screw presses will have longevity through the life of the new plant. The Headworks building, we haven't done that assessment yet. Our consultants have identified that we're going to rehab that building and keep it. But they haven't done that big structural assessment yet to truly identify that. So the hope is that all those Headworks improvements will be permanent, but it's a little too soon to tell. And the HVAC that we're installing there is pretty minor system, like electric heaters and a fan.
Not some big industrial unit like we have at Traverse Park.
No, much smaller building.
But Councilman Troy, you bring up this good point, and this balancing act is there's this diminishing return for these repairs that we're making there. So we're being thoughtful about improvements, these what Holly calls the bridge improvements. The screw press, Holly, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a pilot come out. We specifically talked about what kind of screw press, which basically compresses the solids and squeezes the water out, would be suitable for the new facility, tested some of those units, and this one was chosen with a focus on being the screw press that will be in our new facility. So it will have longevity and compatibility.
That's great to hear. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead. Anything else, Councilman Trevor?
Nope.
Councilwoman Duquette?
I too was interested in that screw press replacement, so that'll come off the cost of the final.
Yeah, yep. You might not notice it just because of all the other zeros,
Right,
but
everything,
yeah,
right.
yeah, you're right. One-time expenditure.
The SLIP program you mentioned, is that what's been going on in the alleys?
No, so perhaps, but likely not. So our sewer lateral improvement project, Brandon really manages this project. Anytime that a house sells in Sandpoint,
Okay.
they're required to have their lateral repaired or inspected. And that inspection might require a repair.
Okay.
So
I
that's why
had to
you
do
see
that.
so many street cuts in Sandpoint is we've had so many laterals repaired.
And so you mentioned a 20-year lifespan. What would be the lifespan of the new plant? More than
You-
20?
You typically plan for 20, and then you plan that major rehabs will happen every 20 years. It doesn't mean that your plant should last much longer, but
Okay.
you plan for major rehab every 20 years.
All right, thanks. At least we're ranked third now, huh?
I
In
guess.
need, in need, instead of what were we, 13 or something?
I'm not sure where we were, but it's at least we're in the money area. But again, these are loans, so
Right, I get it.
they are potentially some portion of them forgivable, but we'll have more information on the financing and the bonding. I
We
do,
want to thank everybody who worked so hard on that. We have to have it.
for the INI of the our engineers have told us that we've got the low hanging fruit, plug the major utility holes and the easy fixes are done, and there's just a marginal benefit going forward. Effectively look like replacing everyone in the city, which is not financially responsible. So, which leads us to, so we have to build this larger plant to handle this brief window when we get these very diluted high flows. And without going into all the details, thanks to Devin, I recommended to Congressman Fulcher's team and Simpson's team that they look at the federal regulations and look at exemptions for high flows, the requirement that we remove 85% of those BOD and TSS during these events, which would allow us to basically build a smaller plant. And they seemed favorable to those potential changes to the federal code. It's truly an act of Congress, so fingers crossed on that one. But
They've been out here?
their representatives have been out many times, and I've met with their chiefs of staff several times over the last month. Anyways, wastewater, you're going to be hearing more about it. You're going to get a preliminary engineering report. We are going to proceed with bond council and a whole educational campaign. We have had some comments. How does the public understand this and learn about it? Part of this next chapter is hiring a educational firm, basically, that does this for a living. They prepare, they know the terminology, and they prepare informational campaigns for municipalities on bond elections and sewer issues. So we're going to borrow some that's free out there. City of Nampa has a great model, and we're going to use some expertise to get the word out. So you will be deluged with information and opportunity to direct residents where they can go to get more information on our sewer situation.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Council
I
President.
just have a small comment. I know that historically, we did do some educational campaign about how to take care of stormwater and not put it into the sewer system. And I'm just wondering if it might be time to kind of splash the public again with that so that we don't have sump pumps going into the sewer, and just make sure that we're taking care of our low-hanging fruit and not letting it grow big again.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And you'll see this in the budget. Holly and I have been talking about establishing a stormwater utility, which would address our stormwater challenges. Part of the things that a sump pump exasperates when people pump their basement water or their crawl space water onto the streets. No, that's a great point. We can always continue to educate, but the reality of our I&I is the fact that we sit on tight soils, 300 feet of clay, and water likes to find trenches and put pressure on joints. So, yeah, we will continue to proceed. So thanks for your support. Let Holly know if you have any questions, and we will keep you updated. Hearing no more questions for Holly, thank you, Holly and Devin and everyone else. Brandon, moving on to new business, and we will go to item number 12 that was pulled off the consent calendar, which is a proposed resolution amendment for change order number 8, Traverse Park renovations phase 1, contract with Gino Construction, city agreement A235300-5. This is an action item. Councilman Schreiber.
Yeah, thank you. Given the back and forth that you had with the member of the public, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we get a grant to pay for half of the playground at Traverse Park?
Yeah, this change order is not related to the playground, though. This was placed where it is because of the excavation for the sports center. So the change order in front of you is for the Gino contract for the sports center, not the playground. So I know they're currently working on the playground, but it's the same contractor that oversaw the sports center work.
Mhm.
And the relocation of the picnic shelter and the hydro seeding of this fill area
Mhm.
is associated with the sports center project, not the playground. So
Right.
this change order is not related to the playground.
Okay, but the repairs are going directly next to the playground that was funded with money from outside of our city limits, is that correct?
The playground, half of the playground budget was from the Land and Waterways Conservation Fund.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I did have a couple questions about the change order as well. The language was a little confusing around the concept of contingency. The first two items show a 0 line item cost, which kind of begs the question, why is it on a change order if it didn't cost anything? Or the second one is actually a credit to us. We didn't get credited back anything. Is that accurate?
Let me find the attachment. So let me see. So the additional safety fence and the deletion of the bike rack and trash receptacle, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, the safety fence says no added cost as owner's contingency was utilized.
Right.
And then the bike rack and trash receptacle, credit to remove purchase and installation of bike rack and trash receptacle from contract.
Right. So we
Provided-
had something like a $8,500 balance on our contingency. We had credits that had equaled $8,500. There was, I think, a January change order that was $0 because it was actually deletions and credits from value engineering. So I think what this is, yeah, I don't actually.
Yeah, in the past, we've seen credits,
Yeah,
you know,
so-
with brackets around them,
So
signify a savings.
that $1,529 for the topsoil and boulder placement was, the actual cost of that is like $10,500. So that was like applying the $9,000 credit that we had. That's what we now owe. So
Okay.
we basically applied credit that we had on our balance for the project from past deletions and value engineering. And that is put towards the $10,500 work that's being done to finish the soil and the top, seeding, sorry.
Now, how does that contingency work? If there's unused contingency, does the contractor keep that sort of as a balance, bonus for being under budget or?
No, definitely not.
Okay,
No, that was kept on balance with the contractor in anticipation of future work like this.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
And any balance would have come back to the city, right, Sarah? I mean, if we had
okay, so this change order, as you said, it was $9,000 of contingency that we're using up right now that could have come back to us if we weren't using it up. So in reality, it's not 22,000, it's almost 30,000.
the cost of the work being done. The
Yes.
cost of the work being done is around $7.6 million. I mean, the total $7.532 million. So this is part of that overall cost, yes.
Right, I'm talking
And the
about
work
this
that-
change order.
No, this change order is for $23,188. The work that's being done right now is being paid for out of partially the balance on our contingency plus this additional amount that we're approving from our CIP right now. Yeah. Please feel free to jump in.
It's significantly higher than it says on that sheet, though, the value of the work that we're approving right now.
The work that you're approving right now, yes. Yeah, it's $10,500 in landscaping work and $21,000 of concrete work.
Easy to clarify, is this in budget?
Yes, of course. We're not taking money out of any other sources. This is we've got the original donation, which was up to around $8 million, I think, with interest. And we've got the 24-25 Parks CIP funds, which was for the completion of the Traverse Phase 1. So additional work that's not before you because it isn't included in the Gino change order, as I described earlier, is the batting cages, the safety fencing and nets for the ball fields, and then eventually the skate park landscaping that we're going to self-perform. That's all being paid out of the park CIP budget along with this work.
I'm glad you did mention the foul ball nets because that what did occur to me. I went down there today as well, and it occurred to me that it could be a very dangerous situation putting a playground for small children right directly next to a baseball field like that.
Certainly.
Now, there was a note on the concrete work, the bench pads and picnic shelters. The bench pads were originally scheduled to be completed by park staff, and it's my understanding that we do have some pretty knowledgeable concrete workers on our parks maintenance staff. But they don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah, park staff is spread really thin. There was some overture by our parks maintenance supervisor late last year that they might have a concrete guy on staff that could do some of the concrete work for us. So we're hopeful. I'm not sure what the savings would be if we were able to self-perform it, but they've indicated that they're stretched super thin, and we want to get this work done. We want the project to be wrapped up. So having Gino on site, having I think it's White Diamond is the concrete contractor. They've done outstanding work. So having them complete that work was, in the interest of time and efficiency, having the contractors that have already been on site and are going to be on site complete that work was in our interest.
Sure. And, the 24 by 24 pad for a shelter probably is not within the scope of what our maintenance
Right.
folk can do anyway.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah, that's like
Takes-
reinforced concrete. There's going to be footers poured down to like 3 feet on each of the corners to hold the posts. It's a little bit beyond what
Sure.
Our one, we ended up hiring a guy who was working on the skate park expansion last year with Dreamland. He got along really well with our parks guys, so we hired him. So he has some concrete experience, but he's really busy in other parts of the parks right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Could you give us an update on the Rotary shelter? The staff report mentioned, it notes that the Rotary's donation is toward the shelter cost. And does that suggest that?
We're awaiting a bid on the actual shelter. We're having Gino do like a design build for us on that. They've got their own team that's doing some of the actual design of the shelter. So that's ongoing like today. They're working on it. We haven't seen it, but we expect to see it in the next couple of days. So with that, we'll know what the actual cost of the shelter will be. So when I say towards the shelter, I'm hopeful that we'll get the full shelter covered by Rotary. But these days, we don't know until we see the
Sure.
final design.
Yeah, I'd be very impressed if, what was it, 22,500?
22 and a half, yeah.
Yeah, if that was able to cover the entire cost. And does that include things like lighting, picnic tables?
I've actually,
landscaping?
no, I've asked for a design that doesn't include lighting, just to keep, I know as soon as you add electrical, you've got more trenching that needs to be done more. I've requested a design that doesn't include lighting inside to try to keep the cost down. And then picnic tables, those are things we're gonna have to procure ourselves later on.
Sure. Yeah, so.
I mean, just keep in mind, this is all coming from our 2025 park CIP budget. We have around $180,000 balance on that. So we have quite a bit more projects that we're going to be doing with those funds. For me, having a picnic shelter to go with our new playground was my highest priority for this year. So that's why I've prioritized this project at this time.
Yeah, and I did go back and watch the Parks and Rec Commission, and it appeared that staff had done an informal survey and asked what their highest priorities were in the picnic. The highest, I believe,
Yeah.
which I appreciate consulting them on the matter. And the only ask there would be in the future, have them bring a formal recommendation to us. It'd be really powerful, I think, if they said Parks Commission unanimously recommended that you approve this change order.
We don't actually bring the change order to the Parks Commission, but after getting guidance from the Parks Commission on their priorities, that's when I directed Maeve to go, get a quote for the concrete work we need for the pad. For me, if you visited the playground, I feel like that's an empty part of Traverse Park right now, where you're kind of entering the playground, but there's this unfinished area to the left.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a picnic shelter was envisioned. When we had originally intended to relocate the Rotary shelter to that location, that's where it was going to go. You recall last year, Rotary Club requested that we don't reinstall a shelter, that they wish to contribute towards a new one. So we view this as a good public-private partnership with Rotary. We're obviously going to have to pay for some of it. Costs are not what they were in 1997 when that original shelter was built. So and I was very pleased also that the Parks Commission agreed that was a high priority to get that there. So that's how we got here tonight. This is after a month or so of working with our contractors, weighing our options. We considered going with a local timber frame or something like that. But again, efficiency, trying to keep our costs down, working with Gino, having them do the design and build was determined to be the most efficient and hopefully timely way to get a picnic shelter in there.
Commissioner Schreiber, with all due respect, you and I and others on this council, I think we all know how we felt about the siting and location of the park and the playground. We have a $52 million budget. $30,000 is 0.058% of the budget. I think we all want to get this project put to bed, done. I guess I've just asked you, can you get to your point? Are there material issues that you'd like to discuss on this point? You've had almost 10 minutes now to ask some questions, and I would just ask you to, if you could get to the specifics, if you can get there quickly.
Absolutely. I'll wrap it up right now. Essentially, the story of this whole project has been that instead of looking at the project as a whole from the beginning and ensuring that all parts were included in the bid process, we've done the whole project through change orders. And so the questions that I'm asking are to ensure that we're looking at this whole picnic shelter rather than getting ourselves a $20,000 pad poured and then not be able to afford to build the rest of the shelter, not be able to afford to put lighting in, not be able to afford to put picnic tables in. And I was on site today, and there was no concrete crew mobilized. So it makes me question whether we're actually getting any savings by going with the existing contractor when I didn't see any equipment on site. They're probably going to have to mobilize just as much as anyone else. So perhaps it's better if we put this project on hold until we know all of the specifics about it and then go out to a formal bidding process. That's my point.
Thank you, Councilman Schreiber. Any other council questions on the change order, city agreement A235300-5?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Spiro.
I don't remember if the original picnic shelter had lights. Did it? I'm just curious. I really don't remember.
I'm not sure.
I believe it did.
Is this the full payment and final settlement with Gino? And again, you mentioned you seem local, wondering why we don't. I understand the ease of having Gino already here and working, but there are local contractors who could use work too. So in the future, perhaps. And is this full payment and final settlement with Gino? If this is the last guaranteed maximum price?
Unless we choose to use them again for something else.
Yeah, there might be other projects at the park that we decide to use them for. I mean, we have several other parks projects we plan to complete this year, hopefully. It may prove efficient to have them, for example, contribute to a shade structure at the skate park, since they've got a lot of experience building the sorts of structures, and that's something that is in our plan for this year. We may self-perform, we may choose to go with Gino or another contractor for that work. So there's going to be more parks projects.
We do have local people.
The reason there's no concrete contractor on site is because we're awaiting this change order to be approved, then they'll be back. But the firm that did all the concrete work is the firm that we'd like to do the rest of the concrete work, rather than going out to a new firm that's not familiar with the site and the conditions. So.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Spiro.
Yeah, I know we've been on this for a while, but I want to respect Councilman Schreiber's thoughts and time on this. I just want to understand you more clearly. Is your concern like, hey, let's go out to bid for the concrete? It might be $5,000 cheaper for somebody local, and that can be used towards the structure if we are $5,000 short and you can go towards that. Is that kind of the thought process that you're having?
That's part of it, yeah. In addition to understanding the full cost before we get past the point of no return.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get halfway through building it before we realize that it's going to cost much more than we thought it was going to cost.
The overall project?
The shade structure, yeah.
The shade structure, the picnic shelter.
Picnic shelter.
We don't know how much the picnic shelter is going to cost. This is for the concrete pad. If worst case scenario, the bid comes back at $150,000 to $200,000 and we don't have the budget, we have a pad that we can put picnic tables on and fundraise for a picnic shelter.
Right.
So I view this as a picnic shelter pad that will serve as a place for picnic tables, whether or not there's a shade or whether or not there's a shelter on top of it. So I'm hopeful that the shelter is something we can do. And just to keep in mind, we have about $180,000 in our park CIP budget this year. So there will be picnic tables. There will be other things we're doing at the park. You're not going to see most of them because they're going to come in under the amount that would trigger a presentation to council. In fact, this comes in underneath that amount. The only reason it's here is because it's a change order to the Gino contract.
Yeah, and let me just make a point there. So the council has adopted a budget. In that budget, the Parks and Planning and Community Development Director has approximately $180,000. Under state code, under our policy, nothing under $75,000 needs to come to the council, okay? So you've got professional staff working very hard who sees an opportunity to leverage an existing on-site contractor to do work. You know, you don't approve this, fine. We could simply tomorrow go out, hire a contractor, have them do all the work, spend $180,000 on this park, and none of that comes to council as long as it's under $75,000 and is budgeted for. What we have here is a diligent and specific reason that we're trying to save some money through the efficiency of using a contractor that's on site. I know there's baggage on this project. I just plead with you, like, let's get this thing finished so we never have to talk about parks and facilities at Travers for the rest of my term. That would be my request. And just, I want to illustrate that Jason, myself have budget authority to do $180,000 of parks projects. And most of those wouldn't have to come to council. We're doing this because we believe there's a savings by using a contractor that's already mobilized.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilman Trevor.
do you intend to do that $180,000 worth of work through change orders rather than a competitive bid process?
You know, there are all sorts of bidding levels. There's no intent to avoid a competitive bid process. That competitive bid process, as you know, we take the lowest bidder. We have a great working relationship with Gino. They've been a great partner in this. They've saved us a lot of money on the, I'll call it value engineering and work. And we know the product. I'll use the example of one of our open contracts right now. Lowest bidder, contractor we've never worked with, and it's not pretty. I like a known quantity if we have the legal authority to use a known, reliable contractor to do work that knows the project and can proceed. But again, I want to put this to bed as badly as everyone in this community. And I'm proud of the work that the city's done to save money and get this in at the price it's come in. Any other council discussion?
I'd make a motion to approve the change order.
Second.
Moved by Rule, second by Dick. So it's a roll call vote.
Counselor Sprow,
Yes.
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
No.
Counselor Rule.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. For the final item on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061F for the purpose of communicating with legal counsel to discuss the legal ramification, legal opinions for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated, but ultimately likely to be litigated. Need a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Rule, second by Dick. This is a roll call vote.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Sprow,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I would ask everyone not participating in the session, please exit the room. The meeting recording will now end. Good night, and thank you for everyone who is at evening.